ignition. Liftoff.
We want to become the Uber for space. What we do is that satellite companies book the rocket, just like you book a cab, and then go to wherever they want.
So tell us the origin of this entire journey.
Just quit my job, start the company along with my friend Bharat. We both were at ISRO, joined together, so we were flatmates.
So these roommates decide to start their own company. Are you a big fan of the Big Bang Theory?
Of course, who is not?
Who do you identify with most?
I think Sheldon is good.
Do you want to be the Elon Musk of India?
I've been a big fan of Elon. He's a phenomenal, human being, great achiever, wonderful engineer, right? So I was really inspired by him.
How did your family and your ecosystem react to your decision that I'm going to quit my job in ISRO and start a private space company?
When we started the company, there was no policy, there was no funding environment. Like every family, our family is shocked, what is happening to my son.
What do your parents do?
In fact, I told them after resigning the job.
How do you go about looking for funding?
He messaged Mukesh on LinkedIn.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Your first pitch was on LinkedIn. There'll be room for people in your space cabs?
Aspiration is, 5 years down the line. So we want to make space flight as easy as air flight.
Pawan, thank you for coming in. We're quite excited.
Yeah, pleasure being here, Tamanna.
Yeah, so from working with futuristic technology to a newsroom today, so that's an interesting transition. And what a story, because I think if India wanted its answer to SpaceX, to what is happening in the most developed nations, of course, ISRO at the forefront, but it's also coming from our private space sector, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an amazing ride. When we started the company, there was no policy, there was no funding environment. Everything, has sprung up, and now I think space sector is booming. And now I think Indian space is in spotlight globally as well. Very interesting space to be in.
Yeah. For those who are watching and who know that you do something in space, Prime Minister was there at the inauguration of your latest plant, and this is an important job that you're doing. Everyone knows that. Yeah. But I'm going to drill down to a more simple question.
Sure.
Aap karte kya hai? What does your company do?
Yeah, so we are a rocket company. We build, we design, build, and launch rockets to space. So what we do is we take satellites and put them in space, and they orbit around the Earth, and these transform life. So we have GPS, we have agriculture, we have communication. 90% of the Earth's surface is connected by satellite today. It transforms lives, as we know it, and that's what we are enabling. By launching satellites to orbit, we are enabling better lives for all of us.
I saw you describe this somewhere in an interesting way, and when you were comparing it to SpaceX, you said they are, for example, the bus or the train that carries satellites, you're the cab. So are you the Uber of space?
Yeah, so that's what we aim to be. We want to become the Uber for space. For example, what we do is that satellite companies book the rocket, just like you book a cab, and then go to wherever they want. So typically, if you want to go to your home, you don't book a train. You have to book a cab to go specifically to your place. So there are satellites who want to go specifically to certain locations in space, and we're a Uber for them, where they book the rocket, put their satellite onto the rocket, launch to space, and get them dropped wherever they want.
So tell us the origin of this entire journey. Of all the things that you would want to do after the kind of education you've had, and start from there as well, why stumble into this?
Yeah, so I loved machines always, and so I went into IIT. I got into mechanical engineering. I really loved engineering. So I spent I did both my bachelor's and master's there at IIT Kharagpur. And then in fact I wanted to start a company straight out of college, but I didn't muster the courage to start a company straight out of then. I just followed my passions. I really love the space program. I used to watch these PSLVs of ISRO launching, etc. It's very, very inspiring.
Oh, when they would come on TV, you would actually sit and watch them?
Yeah, watch them. So I really very fascinated with these rockets which can defy gravity and go to space, right? So it's really inspired me. And as a mechanical engineer, I want to work on the most complicated, complex, fascinating machine built by humans, which I believe are rockets. And that went into fascination. Then ISRO came to campus, and then I didn't even apply for any other company. Just want to get into ISRO. I was lucky enough to become a scientist at ISRO. I joined Vikram Sarabhai Space Center of ISRO, which is the rocket center. It's a beautiful place in Kerala. It's a wonderful time I had there. I was part of India's largest rocket program, the same rocket which put Chandrayaan 3 landed on the moon. Made everybody proud. So I think I had a fascinating time there. In fact, at a point of time, I wanted to retire there. Wonderful. I really loved what I was doing. But always this entrepreneurial bug was there. I wanted to start a company from childhood. At one point of time, I thought, like, why can't we build a rocket company? It just struck like lightning one day.
Not because you saw what Elon Musk is doing.
Of course, we're inspired by Elon as well. But I never thought like we could build a rocket company. I thought it was really didn't come to my mind somehow. But then like at one fine point, once I saw the industry, was part of the industry, was part of building rockets there, and so I felt just one day I felt why can't we build a rocket company, and somehow like got very excited with the idea. Just thought about how it can happen. Once I mustered the confidence, just quit my job, start the company along with my friend Bharat. We both were at ISRO, joined together, so we were flatmates. Very intellectually we were very matching each other, and we thought like we'll start the company together and quit our jobs and started Skyroot in 2018. And at that time there was no policy, there was no funding, nobody knew what is a space sector, and it was a pretty
2013 you started.
2018.
2018 you started. So these roommates decide to start their own company. Are you a big fan of the Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, of course. Who is not?
So it's sounding like that kind of a thing. You and your roommate both are science geeks, and then you start your own company.
Yeah. So in fact, I think maybe we might have watched Big Bang Theory together as well. So, but it's amazing show, and really love all the technical jargon out there. We really connect really well.
So who do you identify with most?
I think Sheldon is good, so really, the way things, and I love the character of Sheldon a lot.
Okay. Yeah. So inspirations, I'm thinking Elon Musk, Sheldon, and of course coming in from ISRO. But if I look at the journey, Pawan, I mean, ISRO is one of those iconic institutions. You get in, you stay there.
Yeah.
How did your family and your ecosystem react to your decision that I'm going to quit my job in ISRO and start a private space company at a time when it wasn't really something which was being encouraged?
Yeah, so that's how I was always. For example, in college itself, I'm studying out of IIT. Hardly very few people, want to go to ISRO, because either want to go abroad or, end up with a banking industry or, whatever, pays really well. But I was never after money. I thought I just need to follow my passions. Now, of course, like every family, our family is shocked, what is happening to my, son.
What do your parents do?
So in fact, like, they're very proud that, my son is a rocket scientist, and he works at ISRO, he's been part of this rocket program, the space program, etc. And all of a sudden just quit the job and comes out and says, sits at home and wants to start a company, right? So it is, of course.
What was the reaction? Was your mom harsh or your dad?
No, I mean, frankly, it was a shock for them, but I already decided to start, so they've been quite helpful after that. But I'm sure like it'll be a big shock, and in fact, my father was thinking, work very hard, went to an IIT. Why do you want to again, land up in a decent job? Why do you want to quit and again start, from scratch, and you have to work super hard, etc. Right? So that was the only concern. Otherwise, they were like always quite supportive. Definitely shocked of leaving. In fact, I told them after resigning the job, because I knew I was decided that I'm going to do this, and so then started Skyroot. That's how the journey started.
Yeah, and then how do you go about looking for funding? Because on that journey, then you have early investors that come in. I know Mukesh was one of the early investors. And in fact, he's spoken about Skyroot on this podcast. He was one of the early guests on this podcast as well when we started. How do you go convincing them about this idea? I want to start Uber for space.
Yeah, so you'll not believe. In fact, I don't even know how to start a company. I don't even know what is equity. When I decided to start a company, I didn't even know what is equity. I didn't know how to raise capital. capital, nothing. Literally, I was an engineer. I was a science guy. I didn't know anything about building companies. And then I just Googled everything, learned whatever is possible, how people raise capital, etc., etc. And then I worked. I had one of my friend. His name is Balaji. We were working together. And said that can you help me raise some capital or something. He found. He messaged Mukesh on LinkedIn. And
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Your first pitch was on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah. So it was on LinkedIn, and then we were like, a bunch of people starting a rocket company. Are you interested to meet us? And I think the meeting happened just that weekend, just few days. And Mukesh wanted to meet us, and then we had a meeting, and I think it's just a 45 minutes catch up. I think there was a great match of frequencies, I would say. And then he wrote a 10 crore check, and then that started the journey.
Wow, this is truly sounding like science fiction right now. If you look at people's journeys and the way they have to go about looking for funding. But I think equal parts kudos to Mukesh and your early investors as well, who took that bet on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in fact, if you see the first 10 million in the company all came from entrepreneurs who made it big, invested in us, put a leap of faith in us, and then
like who would you like to call out?
Mukesh is one, of course, the first investor, and then the founders of Greenco Group, India's largest renewable energy company, Anil and Mahesh. They've been phenomenal entrepreneurs themselves, So they took that leap of faith, and then they put in almost 7-8 million of their personal money into the company very early on when there was no policy, nothing.
What has been the change in mindset from being, of course, a scientist to running your company? Because they're different skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had to learn everything from scratch. Just like being an engineer, you have to learn everything from scratch. I had to learn everything from scratch, and that's how I think what we realized is everything boils down to fundamentals. You should be really deep in understanding things from scratch, and even looked at business also that way, as in science problem, as an engineering problem, and then learned it, and then we are playing a game.
So explain that a little. What is the scientific approach to understanding business?
Yeah, if you see, I think some of the leading entrepreneurs are engineers. So I think the same mindset, how you solve an engineering problem, is how we solve it. We break down the problem into bits and pieces. Like, for example, raising capital. You need to get the tech right. You need to get the team right, and learn how to pitch to investors. In fact, we were pitching to employees initially because we were not known at all, right? So we didn't even have a website when we rolled out our first, people offers for the first few people to join the company. So I think we in fact stumbled, learned, and we undergo that path of growth. Understood everything. Then some things fail. Experimental way of doing, like science experiment. You experiment something, you fail, you learn. You experiment, make a better experiment, learn. Mostly it's experimentation. Everything we experiment. Even how we recruit, how we build the rocket, how we pitch to investors. Everything it's a new thing, completely new thing.
Yeah, because there is no other parameter for it. I mean, now the space is growing.
Yeah.
But that push came, I think, after InSpace got formed, and that kind of government push as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So it was literally, we started in a blank piece of paper with nothing. We were experimenting all the way, and it was so difficult to raise capital, early on.
Apart from the first 10 crore check.
Apart from the first check. But even before that, even for that round, we reached out to so many people. And Mukesh is the one who actually came out and invested. So
any prominent investors who didn't answer?
I don't know. There's so many. I would say so many. I don't remember any names, but I think hundreds of investors we met in the first 2-3 years of the journey of Skyroot. Hundreds of investors, so
they didn't
many
like
of them.
the idea.
Yeah. So many did not understand how something rocket can be built by a company. So and many people thought it's a part of the government. It's not something which private companies can do. Many people didn't understand this. So it's it's very difficult in the initial days.
But in that sense, that concern would still be there, isn't it? You are a private company, no doubt, and you have private funding. But the kind of sensitive space that you are in, it's part of every sovereign nation's plan.
Yeah.
So you would be in a highly regulated sector.
Yeah, that's right.
What your payloads are, whose satellite you're carrying, all of that will have government oversight. Is there a lot of, I would say, coordination with the government agencies on this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, it's a regulated sector, and there's a lot of coordination. That's the reason why the government of India formed InSpace. Previously when we started out, the first 2-3 years, there was no policy at all. So that's a huge risk to take for most people, because we don't know whether the policy will come or not. In fact, when I started the company, we thought, both me and Bharat thought, probably it would take maybe 10 years to get the policy. Maybe we'll not even raise a crore of capital. We are all in. We were ready for the worst case scenarios. Good that a lot of good scenarios we had down the journey, and we were able to accelerate fast. Policy came in 2 years. The capital came in like few weeks. And so that's how it started. We've been lucky on the
right time, right place as well.
Right time, right place.
What was plan B if this didn't happen? To go back to ISRO and say, please give my job back?
No. In fact, you can't take a government job back. So once you leave it, you lose it.
And there's nowhere else to go. Or then you have to write to Mr. Musk, please mujhe naukri de do.
Yeah, so it could be anything, So that's why, but we are ready for the long haul,
Why are you so optimistic about this? Because, you've explained it, CAP service for space, you launch satellites. What are the kind of companies that hire your services, for example? Is that list really growing?
Sure.
Is it going to be as commonplace as, you are thinking?
Yeah, so in fact, like fundamentals, if you see, right, the world's most valued private company is a rocket company. SpaceX, so probably now they're playing catch up with OpenAI or so. But it's been very long period of time. I think SpaceX has been the most valued private company. So that shows that the level of the size of value creation, the size of market which people can address. I think SpaceX is, the projection says going to be a $2.5 trillion company in 5 years. So look at if one space company can become so big. Just imagine the kind of extent of market which can be generated. And only 7 countries in the world have the capacity to build and launch their own rockets. So and India is one of them. And we even build big rockets, launch to the moon, Mars, the first attempt. We have our own great achievements as India, right? So we have ecosystem. For example, the next rocket which we're launching, we have 400 suppliers, all from India. 95% of the value of the rocket is built in India.
That's your own?
Our own rocket.
And that's the Vikram series?
Vikram series. And then so 95% of the value is built in India. And entire ecosystem is India, launch from India, and we have a launch pad very close to the equator, which is very good geography for launching. In fact, you have to launch over the sea. India has a great coastline, and you have an island dedicated for launching. I think we have infrastructure, we have this great supplier base, talent, everything, So to build a successful space, so fundamentals, foundations are really good to build a very good, great company, a space company, global space company out of India, and 90% of the market is global. You're building from India for the world. So I think this is in something very as deep sector as rocket science. So that's I think very exciting.
But then again, it comes back to my point that it's as something which is such a sensitive sector.
Yeah.
You are building in India for the world, no doubt. But there will always be regulatory oversight on who your clients are, what you're putting out there. Is it in sovereign interest?
Yeah.
And sovereign interest will always override. It's not purely a commercial private company as you are describing it.
Yeah, so if you see more than 90% of the market is commercial. Again,
now,
because
you're talking about yourself or the market?
Ourselves in the market. I'm talking about the market side of things.
So who are some of your biggest clients, for example?
So all the companies, there are at least 50 to 100 satellite companies, active satellite companies globally. In fact, space is now a $500 billion global market, and it's set to become $1.8 trillion by 2035. It's going to become a multi-trillion dollar market soon. So I think it's a pretty large established market in itself. And then all of this is enabled by satellites which are in orbit. We strongly believe that space is the next frontier. And I'm sure many people in our generation will go to space.
Really? Will there be room for people in your space caps?
Definitely, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that's
a prototype ready. That's something which you have planned.
Yeah, so we are planning much larger, reusable vehicles in the future, and these will also carry humans, cargo to space, and on a very regular basis. And I'm sure, we're happy to, you're welcome to join. So fly on one of our rockets. Yeah, but of course, there are,
by when do you think this is going to happen?
Yeah, aspiration is 5 years down the line. Yeah.
5 years from now?
Yeah.
5 years from now, if you have a rocket which can have a human in it to travel to space, I'll be on it.
Yeah.
So if your offer still stands.
Yes. So that's the aspiration of course, but rockets are very tough, so very, very tough to
we have to
build,
come back
make.
also, huh?
Yeah, of course. So we want to make like, space flight as easy as air flight, so now how we hop
but
on
to what
flights.
end? Okay, I want to now get a little philosophical in this in this interview. To what end? I mean, some people will say that humans have already dominated everything on Earth. Pollution, we've destroyed so much of the ecosystem, and now we want to add all the space debris and then go to space as well. What would be your counter to that?
No, I think going to space only makes Earth better. There's no doubt about it. Like, for example, it's very clear in the industry that AI will be trained in space.
But why do we want to do it? Why should we do it?
So how many times you use ChatGPT every day? So it makes our life better, so that's just one of it. And just imagine like 3 billion people getting high-speed internet. It's only possible through space. Satellites in space, thousands of satellites in space, and then like it's not. Debris is a problem for sure, but it can be solved with technology again. So there are like companies only to remove debris from space. That itself is a model, upcoming model in the market right now. And also naturally, if you put a satellite in regular orbit, it burns up in like five years. So it's going to get self-sustained, going to get clean on its own. So I think that is something to be solved. And also the future frontier is even living in space, working in space.
Is that something that you have in your mind?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
that one day you think you'll be working and living in space?
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Out of all of these very futuristic plans, I mean, we've spoken about space garbage collectors right now. We've spoken about space recycling. We've spoken about space organ creation.
Space tourism.
Space tourism. What all are you going to get into? What is the outlook looking like for you?
So the only way to go to space today is a rocket. So the moment you build a rocket, you're open to all these markets, from launching satellites to launching humans to building factories in space to building AI data centers, everything. The fundamental thing to be sorted out is build like low-cost regular rockets which can go to space on a regular basis, and we want to convert like space flight as easy as air flight.
Wow, that is mind-boggling to say the least. I'm still trying to get in all of this information because you're sitting here with a straight face on terra firma and talking about a future where we have travel to space and so many other things happening. But it's exciting times. Just as we wrap up, Pawan, do you want to be the Elon Musk of India?
No, I don't want. In fact, like I've been a big fan of Elon for quite some time. I've been, observing him straight from college days. And he's a phenomenal human being, great achiever, wonderful engineer, right? So really inspired by him. So just because like you're in the rocket industry, we get a lot of things saying that the Elon Musk of India or of things of that sort. But really, I think he's in a different league altogether. He's inspired a generation of entrepreneurs for sure. And so he'll always be there, and we'll learn from him and take steps to get better and better. But I think so he's been a great inspiration for not only me, for
you want to build your own identity.
Of course. So we want to build our own way of doing things, and inspired by like stalwarts like him, like many other wonderful people. In fact, I'm really inspired by even Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who's started the space program in 1960s. And just imagine India early 1960s, starting the space program, dreaming about Mars and Moon, and we did it. All India has done, and India is the first country which reached Mars orbit in the first attempt, first country which landed on the Moon. I think we have become so far just because of one initiative of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. And in fact, that's the reason why we named our rockets as Vikram as well. So because as a tribute to the the great person who think big and started the space program.
Yeah, truly inspirational. And perhaps you think India can compete with the best in the world in space?
Oh, absolutely. I think if there is a deep tech sector, which India has this very strong moat, I think it's space. For all the reasons I told, like great supply chain, great talent, great geography for launching, and also I think India has 1.5 million engineers passing out every year. And I think they should get into space and and build the space of the future, and build wonderful companies.
And now hopefully you don't have to persuade people too much to join after all of that success. Pawan, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to listen to you, to your vision, and best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Tamanna. Thanks for having me here.